Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Accuracy in America, brought to you by Accuracy in Academia. I am your host, Don Irvine, joined by my co host, Brian McNichol.
Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody's making progress on getting your brackets together by 12:10 p.m. tomorrow.
Yeah, we can talk about that a little bit later at the end there. Um, so it's good to be back. I haven't been able to do the show here for a couple of weeks. So we haven't actually been together since the end of February. So there's been a lot of stuff going on here, but I'm still going to run through my some of my usual stuff because today is National Sloppy Joe Day.
We had limited experience with that when I was a kid, but we did have some. And she made my mom made the mix and all that kind of stuff. But it's I've since then it's like it used to be a great thing to get at like concession stands. There would be you would like festivals and stuff. Oh, you can get
Right.
a hot dog or a sloppy Joe. It's kind of disappeared from that. So I good on them trying to bring it back.
Yeah, I think I grew up mainly with like Manwich in a
Yep.
can and
Yeah.
stuff like that. That was kind of the standard for me until after I got married, my wife would make it once in a while. But I put this up there today because it's like I thought, man, when was the last time I had a sloppy Joe?
Yeah, I hear you. Now I'm sitting there thinking about that too. Okay.
Yeah,
We're gonna take a break, folks.
yeah. Go get a sloppy Joe today.
That's right.
Yeah. Plus, so it's a little chilly here the last couple of days. But we've got spring apparently. I guess on Friday. But the weather is going to turn a little warmer. Yeah, really, I know. But this weather's been kind of like that up and down here in DC, right? I mean,
And Palm Sunday weekend, we're supposed to get more snow.
oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
geez, okay.
It's like, yeah, the look on your face, like you can't keep doing this to us. Enough, stop.
Mother
That's the
Nature,
way it
stop.
is.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, okay. I haven't looked that far ahead, and I'm like, okay, spring. We've seen some things there. Flowers are popping up in my garden. And I'm like, we're hopeful, and then a cold snap comes in. We're like, uh, and I
It's
was I mean I was just in Evansville, Indiana, with our grandkids, and it was a little on the chilly side. I mean, we get some sun and 50-degree weather or 45-degree weather. It's tolerable, but then if you get wind, you're like,
yeah.
So I don't know what the weather was like while I was gone for the last few days before I came back on Sunday, but anyway, it's been crazy. And I will just throw in that I had a lot of trouble getting to my destination and back on this trip.
Right. I was going to ask you about flying.
So flying, the hardest part was getting out of the airport. So we were actually supposed to leave last Wednesday, and we're kind of and it was gonna be like a midday flight, and we're like, okay, that's fine, gives us more time. And a few hours before we were going to go to the airport, notice pops up. There was a delay of getting out of Baltimore, so I call American Airlines. And my connection to Evansville was like, may not make it because the time is evaporating. And when you're going to a small town, and I think you've probably seen it, you have limited options. You only have so many flights per day, and if you miss a flight, it's going to be hard to get to another flight and all this kind of stuff.
Those
So
planes aren't big. So, you
right,
start trying to
right,
go on a later flight, there's not a lot of seats.
right. A flight, though, the flight from Chicago to Evansville is bigger than the flight from Evansville to Charlotte, or vice versa. Kind of interesting how that goes. But the so we rebooked for Thursday. So kind of disappointed we lost an extra day with our grandchildren and whatnot. But I noticed as I was still getting kind of alerts on the flight for whatever reason, and that flight to Evansville, it was delayed over 5.5 hours.
So you would have made it.
Now, yeah, I mean, I could have made it, but then I would have been stuck in this. I would have been stuck in the airport in O'Hare for hours. It's like,
Yeah.
well, I would rather, We stayed home. We went to a Chinese buffet. We did a bunch of other things. It's like that was much easier than sitting in an airport for 5.5 hours
Yeah.
waiting while you watch your flight just get delay. So Thursday was better. We got out of Baltimore, but this time the routing was into Charlotte. That was fine. But then the problem was we get on the plane, we pull out, and basically almost as soon as we pull out of the gate, ground stopped because of a storm.
Right.
And so the planes are just kind of inching along, hoping the ground stop will be short. And it wasn't horrible, but we weren't getting a lot of updates, and you're kind of like, okay, whatever. And that was a smaller plane. So I hate
Man,
not
I'm
getting
really
updates.
claustrophobic, and I cannot. You tell me, okay, this flight is 2 hours and 33 minutes, right? Okay, I know I got to get on about 3 or 4 minutes early, right? They're not going to let you walk in and shut the door and take
Right.
off, right? So, now we're up close to 3 hours. I'm closed in that box, right? And you say, all right, we're going to wait for an hour, but you can't get off. You got to sit in the box another hour. No bueno.
This probably explains why you drive a lot.
It does. Like I can't do that. It's like if it goes on schedule, if you can rely on it, you go there, you walk on the plane, you do your thing. Okay, right? I hate it, but I can make myself do it. But and I don't know about long, like last year I was talking about going to Vegas and I backed out of it because it was 5 hours of someone right here, right? And I didn't have that. I don't have that in me.
Yeah. No, I mean, I understand that. I mean, and it's just part of it too is that the airlines are not that great about giving you updates because they don't really want angry passengers.
Right. Right.
So they keep you in limbo.
But to me, it's like if you hand me a clock that says you're going to walk off this plane in 4 hours, 5 hours, right? Give me a long, beyond, and I can just watch the time tick off. Okay, right. But it's like if you say 2 and it becomes 5, then I'm really amped up, right?
Yeah. So then when we left on Saturday, we were supposed to have a late afternoon flight. We go to the airport early, return our car, and we get to the gate. And actually, we went over to the ticket counter because my wife likes physical boarding passes, and we weren't checking any luggage. We were trying to make sure we got off the plane and to our car back home at Baltimore as quickly as we could because we were supposed to land just before midnight. And that's when we found out the plane was the plane coming from Charlotte that takes us back to Charlotte was delayed because of maintenance. We don't know what kind of maintenance, but they don't really know how long that's going to take. Right. And so then that creates another connection issue of getting from Charlotte to Baltimore because the connection was about 45 minutes to an hour, and that time was rapidly evaporating. It got to the point where the gate agent finally, she said, you should go, you can get on this flight, you might catch the next flight, but she says, we're going to give you a hotel voucher and an Uber voucher and everything like that because now you probably miss it, but at least you won't be here, and we have basically all our flights sold out of Evansville tomorrow because they just don't have that many flights. Right. So we were happy to get to Charlotte. And of course, we knew that basically all we were going to do was get an Uber and go to the hotel that they sent us to. Well, if you're on my little Substack piece, you find out that what happened in Charlotte, Mr. Basketball, this weekend. There was a little thing called the ACC tournament, and the championship game had been played that evening. And even though it was midnight or it was late at night, 10, 11 o'clock, whatever it was when we got in, the streets were swarming and with people everywhere and cars just jammed downtown Charlotte. And I didn't know it. And so we finally got our way to our hotel only to find out our hotel was sold out. The guy there said, we told American we had no rooms and you're going to have to call them and get another room. I spent easily an hour on the phone with American trying to find another room. I actually had an agent. She was very nice, but she said, I'm so sorry, but I think you're going to just have to go to a hotel and find your own room. I'm like, No, not. I don't think that's the way it works in a sold out city. You don't understand exactly. There are 20,000 people running around here, and it's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. And So they finally found us a hotel back near the airport, which they said initially all the hotels had been sold out, but they somehow managed to find a Courtyard by Marriott that was just a few miles away from the airport, which was perfect. But we had to catch another Uber. But they couldn't give us another voucher because of some technicality of how they issued them, and now I have to submit a reimbursement, kind of. But 1 o'clock in the morning, we get to our hotel, and we were just happy we had a bed.
Yeah.
The other thing is that we misunderstood or had a miscommunication with the gate agent in Evansville, because when she said she had a flight for us to Charlotte to Baltimore, we thought she said the morning, like at 5:30 in the morning. It was 5:30 in the evening. So we had more time there than we expected. But we're that area of Charlotte where we were by the airport. There's nothing but like 4 hotels and a Circle K, and there's like no sidewalks. And I stayed in that area before. I looked around. I'm like, hey, I stayed at that hotel for an NRA convention with Spencer. I don't know how many years ago when they were in Charlotte. It's that's just I know that hotel. So it was just kind of funny, but at least we finally got there. And of course, the Charlotte to Baltimore flight had some issue, and I'm like, where's the plane? Looking over there and like waiting, and they finally, about 40, they said, 40 minutes to boarding, 30 minutes to boarding. And they finally fessed up that the plane that we needed to fly was in decon. And I'm like, decon? Decontamination? So I looked it up, and it's like, so apparently every once in a while they actually go through, and they actually go through a plane and they decontaminate the entire plane. I don't know what happened to the plane. My wife said she was a little concerned. I said, think about it this way. You're going to be flying on the most germ-free airplane in the world right now.
Yeah.
We got home.
You are not selling a lot of airline tickets with this presentation, Don.
Yeah, no. I mean, there's some things that just you can't avoid. But to get home 19 to 20 hours after you're expected to, we felt like we had been traveling internationally from the time we got to the airport to the time we got home. It was just nuts.
Yeah, I mean, you could drive it, and what does it take? Like 6 hours to drive it? 7 hours?
Yeah, from Charlotte it would have. Yeah. If we had gone straight from Evansville, we would have been 13, 14 hours. But we hate that drive. I mean, I hate that drive because it's just mountains through West Virginia and stuff like that, and it just wears you out faster. I mean, I suffered for a couple of days because a little bit of just the lack of sleep I'd had the last couple of days, but I think I'm kind of back together again here. So while I've been yapping away here, Bob's got this. Let me see here. So I saw the end score. I didn't see the game, but sometimes the score is not indicative, but I guess they almost got there.
Yeah.
So good for the Cavaliers. Duke is going to have some issues with their injured players. So
I think
that's a whole nother thing that we can maybe get to later. All right, so I've yapped a long time here. Let's get to some other things that are going on here. Just before I started setting all this up, I saw that today we got an inflation report that was not good. So this is, for me, this is the shoe I've been waiting to drop, because I've just been a little bit leery about how inflation has been going here. We've been holding it in check, but I wasn't sure that we were going to get much lower than we were. But this time around, we went much higher at this point. So we're at, I think, 3.4 to 3.9, depending upon whether or not you're looking at core versus overall CPI, I think it was. So that's spooking the markets a little bit today. Maybe it'll be a one-off. Maybe it won't. I don't know. I mean, we have.
That seems a little fish. Like, where'd you see this?
No, it's all over the news.
It wasn't on mine. I'm highly suspicious that because I'm going into grocery stores and you can literally see on the things where they're marking stuff down. Right. Sure. I was in Walmart the other day. There was like 20 things I bought that had been marked down. They were cheaper than they were before. And did you come on and say that it went up a point or more than a point? I'm highly suspicious of that.
So what? Its wholesale prices rose 0.7% in February, much more than expected, 3.4% annual. 12-month basis, PPI was at 3.4, the most since February 25. Core was at 3.9, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Food prices rose 2.4%, energy 2.3. Within food, the index for fresh and dry vegetables soared 49%. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just these are things that are kind of been lurking out there, and I'm not overly shocked because I kept I thought it's been remarkable that inflation hasn't gone up more considering all the weird with the tariffs and all these things. All the tariffs didn't have a negative effect. I don't necessarily think that tariffs have had a big effect on this particular report, but we know that things are sometimes that happens. Is that we see markdowns on some things and other things they go up, and it's still hard for me to get a firm reading on where inflation really is. I just
Right.
figured
We
we
keep
would. I
changing how we
figured
measure it.
we'd be in a 3% range more or less, no matter what. So I'm close, not quite there.
Yeah. We keep changing how we measure it and how we count it. Right. The whole BLS has been remade, which is one of the things like people notice is like the numbers that are involved in the jobs, whether they're up or down on any particular month, are much lower than they used to be, right? It used to be talking, we gained 600,000 jobs this month. Now we're saying we gained 180,000 and that was a great month, right? Or whatever it was, 180 private sector minus they kicked out 90,000 people or whatever it was, right, in the 1 month. So like we're changing how we count all that, and I don't know what that has to do with any of this, right? I'm not saying it does. But I think that one of the legacies of the Trump administration, oddly enough, is going to be, we do a better job of counting, of, assessing things and, the Doge and all that of, actually going in there. Is this working? Is the money we're spending here appropriate and so forth? So,
yeah, I mean, it's Trump's BLS. I mean, he's remaking it. So the numbers you would think would at least he would try to find a way to make it favorable to him. I'm sure if somebody asks him about it, he'll have some remark to kind of slough it off because he's he's good at, like, when the numbers are great, he's all boasting about it, and then when things aren't quite right, he always finds a way to kind of disparage things, and it always makes me chuckle. I mean, it's like
he's good at deflecting this.
He really is. He really
really
is. It's like, if I mention these things to my wife, she's just like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. That's right.
So,
I mean, he has conditioned us, and he's changed the way people look at media, right? There's no question about that. But he's conditioned us to, probably just came out in me a few minutes ago is, when you hear bad news, like go looking for the other side of the story and all that kind of stuff, because there's a lot of it, right? There's a lot of how many hoaxes do they disprove? Like, for instance, they were talking about Trump did not realize that Iran would try to close the Strait of Hormuz, if we attacked them. How did Trump not realize that? There's no way. Well, it turns out, they did realize, but they didn't plan for it. Oh, they did plan for it, and the people that were supposed to cooperate with them didn't cooperate, or whatever it was. So the story keeps changing to yes, they were prepared for this, right? And, it's their current thing they got to solve, but it's no surprise that Iran it's 30 miles wide through there. It's no surprise that that's going to be where they put the pressure, the pressure.
Right. We'll continue to talk about. I was rereading this, Bob's comment. I'm thinking, like, why is Bob a Cavalier fan? I thought he was from your neck of the woods.
Bob grew up in Northern Virginia. He went.
He did. Okay.
Cavalier daily sports editor. He went to Lake Braddock.
Okay. All right. That explains it. All right.
Yeah. Bob's a local guy.
Because I was thinking, like, okay, he had to be a transplant of some sort if you're going to be a Cavalier fan and you're in the South. Like that.
No, he's genuine. He went there. He worked for the school paper, all that stuff.
All right. He's walked the walk and talks the talk.
Yeah, Bob was a sports writer, and then he went to school, and it's like, oh, Bob's in school. They didn't like the sports writing and the $2 a day thing.
Yeah.
And and all of a sudden he has a master's and he has a PhD, and now he works at Southern Miss.
Yeah.
So,
he found the right career path.
Guy.
Yeah. So I hope. Yeah. I'm sure he'll chime in here about our commentary. Hold on here. I've got this thing that pops out. I can't get rid of it. All right. So, as we talk about this, I mean, one of the things we're still having an issue with is that with Iran, I mean, the direct economic effect is that we have higher oil prices, which have led to significantly higher gas prices across the country. Now, President Trump has been deflecting on this, but as soon as this is over, it's going to drop like a rock. Okay, not exactly. All right, you can say that, but
it's really volatile. It will drop.
It is. I mean, it shot way up, but I mean, I don't think
it's not like groceries where those higher costs stay built in. It's like it's really you're just paying for risk.
Yeah, it will come down, but I don't. Oil prices, when they go up, they don't necessarily drop right away. I mean, it may take. They may get to the point where they were pre-war, and they may go a little bit lower, but it's not going to happen like the next day. Okay.
It went from 103 to 84 in one day.
Yeah, but I mean, it's in the high 90s still right now, and I can see it drop into the 70s, right after the conflict, and then making its way down. But then what happens is that the price of the pump will gradually come because this is always the opportunity to when prices go up like that, and you can always use conflicts like this as when oil prices shoot up as a way to prices keep going up, but as they come down, gas prices tend to come down slowly.
Right. They respond to the increase quicker than they have any right to. It's like, there's no gasoline being sold here in Gaithersburg, Maryland, that is affected by what's going on in Iran. The gasoline, that oil left the ground and got into the United States and got refined, way before this started, right? Then trucked around and distributed and, sold twice since then or whatever. And then it gets pumped into your gas station and you go buy it, right? There's no reason that yet they should have to raise prices, right? So they're doing it. They raise them on spec and they lower them on, as market conditions absolutely force them to,
Yeah. So it's, because I watched for that. As soon as I saw oil, this whole thing started, I watched the local gas prices and I'm like, okay, how long before we're going to see, big spikes? And it took a day or two before they started jumping up, and then they've jumped up a considerable amount more, as over the last 3 weeks. And it's like, like you said, I mean, both you and I know that the one thing is that the gas they have in their storage tanks, at their stations, they paid a lower price,
right?
At that point, and then this conflict occurs. It's like, you're now marking it up another 5 or 10 cents, and then start moving it up, and yet you have a 2 or 3 day supply in your storage tank. No, you shouldn't be charging us more until you pay more for that gas. Lean, but it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way, and in a way that helps us because there's more downward market pressure when the crisis, whatever it is, ends, right? So that you end up with people who, you end up with it falling rapidly, and then the guy next, the gas station next to you, all of a sudden is back to $2.30 a gallon. What are you going to do, right? You're going to have to respond. You're going to have to go back to $2.30 yourself. So, the market, it gives the market more influence on it, or to give it a touch. The other thing is like nothing primes an economy like the gas prices falling off the roof, right? So it's 98 today. Yeah, that's right. We work together at the Connection. That's how I know him.
Oh man, the Connection. I kind of remember that.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
uh,
ODU.
thanks for the update.
Yeah. No, that's good. I'm glad, now people know.
Yeah.
But I lost. What was I talking about?
Well, we're talking about gas prices up and down and the rapidity and
Yeah. So nothing fires up an economy like suddenly rapidly falling energy prices. Right. All of a sudden, because when this ends, and the portion of this that is giving us higher gas prices is going to end probably before the war itself, right? Because Trump's going to figure out a way to protect both sides of the strait, where within range of their missiles or whatever it is they have, right? What they're shooting at ships in the Gulf is not very sophisticated. It's not very hard to take down, and they've pretty much diminished their drone capacity to zero. The world is really short on drones right now. By the way, Zelensky is saying he could do. They sort of have the Russians on their heels in eastern Ukraine, and a lot of the places the Russians took, the Ukrainians are taking them back, but they're running out of drones, and all the drones are being bought up for the Iran, right? Like it's all kind of more war material and missiles too. Zelensky saying he can't find them to buy them because everybody's using them in Iran.
yeah. So there's been a lot of back and forth on this. I mean, there's some people on the right that are not happy with this conflict. We saw Joe Kent resign in this.
Well, Joe Kent's not of the right, but okay, go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny. I mean, this is where I go back into Trump and his his deflection or whatever. He nominated this guy, okay, and he said he was a good guy. He really trusted him on security. He writes this resignation letter and just kind of scorched earth in a way, and then Trump's statement is basically saying, "I don't know much about him." He's like, "I knew he's terrible on security," and you're like, "But you nominated him for security."
Right. Well, I mean, he worked in security. That was his thing. He ran for Congress from Washington State, lost, and got this job, right? As somebody who tried to turn a district. There's a district or two in Washington that are turnable, that the Republicans can win, and there's a couple of them that they do control. It's not all Democrat, right? But what happened to Joe Kent is they realized that he was a leaker, and so they started feeding him incorrect information, and then seeing that get relayed to various people. So they knew they had him, and they confronted him with it, and that's why he quit when he did. And that's why he's bitter. His wife, he married a hardcore left wing woman. She's in some kind of policy work too, and then they went hardcore libertarian, right? And the libertarians have they have problems with all of this, right? It offends their sensibilities in a million different little ways, but he took himself out. He changed, right? Trump may have judged him correctly when he hired him, but he changed, and he got different priorities. And if you don't align your priorities with the administration, you need to go, right? You should not work for them and have other priorities.
Right. Look, he could have changed, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I just think Trump is really funny because this is not the first time he's done this when somebody has left, has resigned, or they had to get rid of them, and all the time that Trump served over his 2 terms. It's just that praise them, for Senate confirmation. This guy's great, or this woman's great, or whatever. And then something goes wrong. And then he kind of throws them under the bus. Oh, well, see, I always knew he or she was bad at this. And you're like, then why were they in that job to begin with? It's like, okay, you can say something besides I always knew or whatever. I didn't trust him on this. It's like, okay, there are better ways of handling that where you just don't look like it's like, was he or wasn't he, or wasn't she? I don't know. He loved Kristi Noem, but she's gone. They're going to be much better off probably at DHS with Mark Wayne Mullen, I guess. He's probably another MAGA guy.
I didn't have any problems with Noem. What was the problem with Noem? I still don't get it.
Well, I mean, I think,
or let the left wing fire. That's not.
well, I
That
mean,
was
but
my problem.
that's his problem. I mean, if he let the left wing fire, I mean, that's his problem. But she probably, to me, in certain ways, she was a little bit over the top in terms of the way she handled things. And things could have been done better. Okay, and it just
Yeah, I think the PR thing hurt her. Like
yes,
she
yeah.
had
I
a
think
big
the PR
PR
thing was
contract,
yeah,
which
yeah,
included a lot of TV ads and stuff. So it's not like she, it was $27 million, whatever it was, to gussy her up, give her
yeah.
plastic surgery or whatever. But it was, a lot of money on rebuilding the image of the agency. Yeah, yeah, that's right.
That's real. That is the bottom. That is the bottom line.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, even Tulsi. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard was kind of like she didn't really she kind of hit the middle of the road on this. She didn't criticize Kent really as much, and she didn't say anything about who has who knew exactly about was Iran an imminent danger to the U.S. She just in the end I think she just said that the president ultimately has the right to decide whether or not that's the case. So and so that it was I don't know if you call that a non-statement statement or whatever, but she seems to be kind of walking in the middle there just to preserve
Well, I
her
mean, she's
job.
saying that call is for him, whoever
Yeah,
recommends whatever. And I think it's a dumb question anyway. I mean, if you can't tell that Iran is a threat, and they're building a bomb to shoot at either us or Israel or both, I don't know. I don't know how much evidence someone would need to conclude that. It seems pretty obvious.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you think about, I don't know if they were an imminent danger to the U.S., but I think they were definitely a threat at some point. And you had, as much as I really don't have I'm not crazy about the way we did things in Venezuela, now Iran, and we're looking at Cuba. The bigger picture to me too, though, is just that we have got these regimes that are horrible. They're oppressive. They're horrible. People suffer, and Trump has decided that you know I've got I've got one term, and he's going for all the marbles. He's taken all the hits about you said we weren't going to have any more endless wars, or you weren't going to be a warmonger or whatever, and whatnot. And yet you've gotten involved in these kinds of things. But I think that the people in Venezuela are going to be much happier. In the end, the people in Iran are going to be much happier. I don't know how long it's going to take, U.S. and Israel to really kind of, put the nail in the coffin on Iran. But boy, Israel is just like, they're decapitating the leadership there with immense speed.
Yeah.
That as my wife said, she says, so why are they electing leaders? Because it's like it puts a target on their head. It's like, well, they don't want to look like they're leaderless, but it does put a target on their head. And Israel is very good about figuring, oh, you're here, boom, you're gone.
All for it. Those are
Yeah,
bad
well, I
people.
don't. I'm not.
They earned it.
I am not crying over the loss of what we've done here in the sense of we're on the cusp of turning things around. After 47 years. I mean, we're 47 years too late on this. I mean, we just waited.
Yeah, I mean, it did bedeviled every president since Carter, right?
Yeah,
They just did what they wanted and did to us, and we never were able to respond, right?
yeah,
And so now we've responded, and
yeah,
they don't have the same people in charge anymore, and they won't, and it's going to keep going. So I've been trying to think about like what gets us out of this. How do we make this end? Two things is one is, I think we're days away from, they sent 5,000 Marines over there. The Strait of Hormuz is going to be safe once the 5,000 Marines get there. Secondly, like what makes the Iranians say uncle, right? Because so far it looks like they're willing to take a lot of punishment over this, right? But if you keep losing, they're going through two or three ayatollahs a week. That's you got a problem, right? It's at some point, like you say, people are not going to want to be the ayatollah because you have a target on your back. You really can't rule, right? You're trying to run from the bottom of a cave, right? You're trying to run a country from the bottom of a cave. your military leaders may or may not follow your orders because they may or may not even recognize you as the head of state. That's another problem. We for them to surrender to us, we have to find somebody. We have to get someone to be in charge who will surrender, right? Who will not keep fighting, but will say, "Okay, you got us. We'll stop," and we'll agree to terms, and we'll figure it out like Venezuela did. But we don't have that. We haven't found that person yet, right? They went in and elect the guy's son, who it turns out may well be gay, which is kind of complicated. Who would have thought that Iran would have a gay leader before us?
Ooh.
That was not on my bingo card.
Yeah.
So it's like we got to figure out, we got to get somebody to be a partner in ending the war. That's one of our big kind of tasks, and a structure for like how you would, what are you going to stand up immediately? The Shah's son, Montgomery County resident, says that he wants to go over there, and he believes he has a lot of support and be an interim head of state until they could hold elections, right? Not hold the job, not even run for the job, but just, take over until things are settled down. And, that sounds like a good offer to me. It apparently sounds like a good offer to a lot of the Iranian people. But, since it's a good idea, it'll probably never happen.
Yeah. I mean, I think, as long as, Israel, they feel that they're going to get the backing of the U.S. for their actions, I think Israel will continue to pound away, and then we'll continue to pound away. And we know that, I think at some point, you will get, Iran will buckle. I mean, they cannot withstand this level of attack. I mean, they are losing leaders, and as we talked, it's like, how many people want to be the leader of Iran when every time you do so, you're going to get eliminated. There's a high likelihood. It's like your shelf life as a leader is going to be extremely short.
Yeah, so, and they have to, the other thing is it has to be going on inside of their leadership is, somebody who sits at the main table in almost every discussion is Mossad. They don't know who, right? But somebody is giving up every little detail of what they do, when to find them, how to kill them, all that kind of stuff, right? So, you got to deal, how much trust can they have in each other? How can they speak to each other, frankly? I mean, the United States, like one of the things that our law says is private is what they call pre-decisional discussions, right? So the president asks his advisors, should we bomb Cuba? And they sit around and have a discussion. Yeah, let's bomb the crap out of them. And somebody else says, that's a bad idea. And they have this argument, right? That is not like if you go, you try to FOIA the records of that discussion, that part they can legally not give you because they can say it was before we made a decision. We're just discussing, and the courts have recognized that the president has a right to discuss with his advisors and not tell us what they discussed, right? Because it didn't, until it leads to policy. Once it starts leading to policy, once policy things start happening, then your rights as a citizen to know what they're talking about go way up. So in Iran, it's like, how can they be doing that, right? Who are you having a pre-decisional discussion with? Because, so far there's, we're getting to the point where there's hardly anybody in their government who's still alive who would not be considered a suspect. Who's the leaker or leakers, right? And it's like when those 10, 15, 20 guys, however many it is, are in a room trying to figure out what to do next, how can they trust each other to talk? How can they really be frank? And how is the chain of command working? Who is telling the military what to do, if anyone? And does the military, feel obliged to follow those orders, right? So you're getting to the point where you're breaking down. And I think like, okay, what's the breaking point? What makes Iran stop in this thing? And I think that could be it. It's just the distrust of the leadership.
Yeah, if you are against all of these actions and everything like that, and and I have some mixed emotions about some of the way, like I said, we've done these things. for me, in the end too, it's just like, if Trump doesn't do these things, nothing happens. There isn't going to be a president that is going to do this.
Right.
These are kind of necessary actions. These are long overdue actions, in these countries. And he's just, he's going for all the marbles. He's just shooting the wad, and he's doing it. And
He's solving problems we've been dealing with for my entire life. Right.
Yeah.
Cuba. I was born in 61. Cuba went communist in 62. We've literally, or no, 60. So we've literally been dealing with this my entire life. Right. And so finally we have a president who appears to be ready to take Cuba off the board in relatively short order.
Yeah. I mean, and Cuba, I think, when you can look at, Venezuela, Iran, and Cuba would probably be relatively easy in a lot of ways, because they're getting in deeper trouble day by day. I mean, their oil supply has been cut off, and
they have no power. At this point, all the power of the country has been turned off.
Yeah, so they're in deep trouble over there, and it would be, it's a far smaller country, and it would be far easier to do things there.
And we've cut them off from their benefactors, Venezuela and Russia. They really can't get anything from the people who would be willing to help them.
Right, and so it's so they're going to be standing there all alone, and they've been warned. Trump is, he threw out Cuba out there on the table, and there are plenty of people that would love to see Cuba be free. We have a lot of Cubans in this country that would love to go back home and reclaim property and just live out their remaining years there.
Right.
And they could revive Cuba. I mean, that wouldn't be hard. I mean, there's some nice possibilities there of, you can rebuild the country and make it a little island.
How quickly will like American tourism investment come in there? How long before there are resorts and golf courses all over Cuba? It's perfect for that.
Yeah, I mean, and American corporations, they kind of salivate at the prospect of, no sanctions, whatever. We go in there, we operate in a free market economy, and
the government, rule of law will happen. We sign contracts, they'll get honored, that kind of thing, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Unfortunately, it's like the way it is just to keep killing the key people till the key people say uncle. I mean, I think that's kind of what it is.
That has been really what's been going on there. So yes, Cuba, watch out. Once we kind of get the Iran thing figured out, you'll be next. But I mean, every day is just misery, more misery for the Cuban people now without power. So
that's right.
It's they're going. It's going to be a long haul for them. All right. So the Senate, I guess, is debating or trying to debate the Save America Act. Trump wants a vote on that. You need 60 votes. They're not going to get 60 votes, for this thing at all. I mean, the House passed it, but there's no way the Democrats are going to go along with this. And I don't know. I'm somewhat dubious as that, is this the right thing to do overall, or is this federal interference, with elections that we really don't want as conservatives for that. I mean, our election system isn't perfect, but I don't know. This thing seems to be like, and it's just tricky. I mean, the amount of ID required and how it's done seems even to me to be somewhat onerous, because every state has different requirements. You can't always get those documents in a smaller area than you can in a larger city. I mean, I think they'd have to iron out a lot of these things here to say, how's the easy access to all of these things so you can do that. I mean, I saw that, not even though there are real IDs out there, not everything says like real ID on it or whatever. And then you're relying on people at the polls. And I don't know. I mean, the fact that we have states that are already controlling their elections, and now the federal government saying, we want you to have all these things in there to do that. I mean, I have no problem if you've got to show a driver's license or something, a federal ID to vote. At least it's a step in the right direction, because right now most states don't require any identification.
No, that's not true. The only states, in fact, the only states that don't require it, or that you could, the map lines up, I believe, 100% perfectly. The states Kamala Harris won do not require voter ID. The
So a
states she
lot of
lost
states.
do. I am 1,000,000% for the Save America Act. The problem is, they brought in the Biden administration, they brought in 25 to 30 million people. They waved them through with no vet, no, gave them all kinds of weird little immigration statuses that we're trying to unravel now. And there's all these people in the country, and they're not citizens, and they're going to decide how our country is led. And that's not right. And what this is this makes people be a citizen to vote. And it's absolutely necessary, right? Otherwise, you will be swamped with this kind of voting every election from now on. This will never stop, and there will never be a need for it to, because this is your only last chance to do this particular thing. 90 something like high 90% people have in their pocket right now everything they need to vote. Right? There's no like going out and getting something else that you don't have. Like it's 98.9. It rounds up to 99% of the people they already have what they need. So we're at most we're talking about a solid 1% of the people. And why would you be an adult in the United States in 2026 and not have a real ID compliant license? Why would you do that? Right? Who are those people? Who is that 1%? Who's in it? Right? It's either people who are so out of it that they can't even get a driver's license, right? And I guess they have a right to. They don't really have a right to vote. But I mean, is that who we want deciding stuff? The people that are, druggies and stuff like that. Those are the only people that don't have it. And a lot of them have it so they can access benefits. So, the idea that this is onerous to get, I believe, is nonsense. The idea that, it's not necessary, I think, is equally nonsense, because you have, if you just look at, the number that keeps coming in my head about this is 2020 election, Biden gets 81 million votes. That's not just a little more than ever. Obama, the most he got in his 2 elections was 66 million. So you're saying Biden is about 20% more popular with the electorate than Obama? There's no way. So there was massive fraud in that. And if somebody wants to come on, I mean, there's you can count it up any way you want, mail-in ballots, all that kind of stuff. There is no way that Obama got 66, Hillary got 63, and Biden, an old white, it's a coalition politics party loser idiot who's known for making bumbling statements and whatnot, and a bunch of little scandals around him, got that much more votes than everybody else, right? I mean, people may have been dissatisfied with Trump, but they were not that dissatisfied. And on the day, the day before the election in 2020, Trump was at 48% on Rasmussen. Now, Rasmussen tends to rate him better, but Rasmussen was second in the accuracy in the last 2 cycles, right? And second to Trafalgar, which is even more bullish on Trump. So the polling don't add up, the numbers don't add up. The election got stolen there. This is a reasonable attempt to deal with it. So, now, all that said, will it pass? Can it pass? They're going to try this thing. I don't know. It's like, I don't know if the question has been asked, and maybe this is the whole thing, but is there something have we gone to the Democrats and said, is there something we could do to this bill to where you'd vote for it? Right? Is there some amendment you'd like to offer that would improve it, address your concerns, guarantee poor people, whoever's in that 1%, 1.1% or whatever it is, can get, federal funds to get whatever documents they need to get their whatever they want. Where you would say, okay, I won't vote for it, but I'll vote to call it off the calendar and let you vote for it if you include these things, right? So, I don't know if they've asked that question. The Democrats will probably say, no, there's nothing you can do, because I really believe that like the entire future of the party, of the Democrat Party, is riding on this, right? Because if you really make it where people have to be citizens to vote, they're not going to win. They're not going to be able to cheat and throw ballots in the box and all this kind of stuff anymore, because they'll all be tied to that ID. So what do we do if we can't amend our way to success? If we can't talking filibuster, now the plan is to just keep debating it till the Democrats say uncle. Maybe at some point the Democrats will say uncle. They fear their base a lot on this. I don't fear their base a lot. I don't think their base will hold this against. Remember, when you poll this, it polls about 75, 76% support among Democrats. Democrats support this. Okay. Three out of 4 Democrats are for this legislation. Right. So their Congress is standing in the way. And, and it is a good strategy to make them explain for days and weeks and months, whatever it takes, why they can't do this. Right. Because when 3/4 of their voters want it, 85% of people overall want it. Why can't you vote for something that 85% of the Americans want, right? And independents are way over 80%, like 82%. So, the people in the middle that you could persuade to come vote for you and give you control of Congress, right? They're on the other side of you of this issue. How long can you sit there and let the Republicans make the argument unimpeded about why this is a good thing, and you're already for it? And I think the danger of the Democrats is letting this go. So, are we really willing to do this for weeks and weeks and weeks? If we are, you might get it that way. But I think what's going to ultimately happen is you're going to have to make the decision whether to sack the filibuster, right? Sack the 60-vote rule, which they can do. They are empowered to do it. But once you do it, the cat's out of the bag. If you ever lose control of the Senate, it'll be getting done to you on a daily basis. Right. Because people forget most of the Biden agenda. I mean, he got some big bills, the big spending bills through, right, when people were desperate. But most of what they wanted to do got held up, by Kristen Sinema and John Manchin, because they couldn't quite get to 60 and they couldn't quite get to 50 without them. So, you can thwart them, but it's going to take a lot of work. And I think what will end up happening is my prediction is it will lose. It will not pass.
Right. I don't think it'll pass. I don't think they can get the Democrats. I mean, look, we're in an election year. For them, they're going to be hoping, that even if the chances are slim, that they somehow, narrow the gap, if not take over the Senate. I don't see them take over the Senate, but there's always a possibility they could narrow the gap.
But that's kind of faded now. I mean, the primary results, I think they're no better than 48 now.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the problem is that Trump is such a wild card, because without doing a lot of things, he could have strengthened the Republican position and really kind of made them sail through. A lot of these actions get a lot of negative attention and have some negative effects. I mean, oil prices shoot up. It hurts everybody, everybody buying gas. And so they'll be thinking about that. If we don't get that under control by November, that's going to be an issue that will hit a lot of people. Even Trump voters will have a problem with that. So, that will create somewhat of a backlash. But, citizenship to vote, I don't have a problem with that, but it's not always easy to get those documents. And you sometimes look, I didn't even know I didn't have a birth certificate in my possession. I had to provide an original copy of a birth certificate. I thought I had one. What I had was like this thing from the hospital that said I was born on this date at this time and all this stuff. But it was the hospital's document. It was not an official Washington, D.C. government document.
That's good enough for Obama.
Well, it's not good enough for a lot of things anymore. Right. I know. Yeah. Right. But this is the thing. I mean, under a lot of rules, you cannot, you need that. And it took weeks in order to go through a process of doing that. World has changed a lot. I mean, not everybody wants a driver's license. I mean, there are swarms of kids that, that used to say, at 15, whenever they were eligible for a learner's permit, they'd be out there driving with their parents, and they'd get their license by 16. I see not a lot of going on, because what are they doing? They're using Uber and Lyft, and they're doing things like that. Like, I don't have time to be bothered with driving in a driving test. I'll
And
just take one.
rest in the kids, students. If you have a student ID, you can ride the bus for free.
Right. Well, in Montgomery
Like
County, everybody can ride the bus for free.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm paying for that. I didn't vote for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a whole nother can of worms. This thing, school system, they're ditching their electric school buses. They paid millions of dollars in this whole, case, with the whole transgender thing.
Yeah, I saw that. So people know that don't live here. Montgomery County, where Don lives, is a uber liberal place, right? Rich liberals govern it, right? So they bought all these electric buses to be environmentally friendly, but like they don't start in the cold, they don't work, they can't get them fixed. It's just been a complete disaster. Maybe they bought them from the wrong people. I don't know, but it's one thing after another. So they finally have relented, and they're trying to find some diesel. They won't really do. People don't realize, like, diesel's heavier than gasoline, right? So when you do fumes out of the back of something with gasoline, it can dissipate into the air. Diesel, it falls down because it's just heavy enough. That's why, like, when you go to a truck stop, right, the concrete is kind of greasy no matter what they do. I have a friend whose job is going around power washing gas stations, parking lots, to like keep that grease down, right? Because if you sell diesel, it just those big heavy hydrocarbons just fall right down on your thing. So they're doing diesel to be cleaner, because it's only
as a taxpayer, I'm paying for this mistake.
Yeah, that's right. For a lot of money too. It's like $200 million or something.
Yeah, I mean, our county now wants executive. He wants a 6% increase in the property taxes. Like, you're getting a significant increase in property taxes by the fact that the assessed value of our homes has been going up. So then you want to add insult to injury by tacking on raising the assessment rate. I mean, on next door, I don't know the exact about the who's a liberal and who's a conservative necessarily, but there are a lot of complaints about this on there. And if it's Montgomery County, 3/4 of the people, if not more, are liberal Democrats. So it's kind of like, you have even upset your base.
You've reached your limit even with them.
Right. Right. You've even done that. But this is going. Yeah, the SAVE Act is not likely to pass. We'll have to figure this out at some other time.
Unless they chuck the filibuster, or find a way to chuck the filibuster, but only once. But I don't know.
All right, so we need to wrap this up real quick. I'll just make a quick comment on, DHS is still underfunded. My concern now is that the TSA employees don't have paychecks. I know you don't care much about the TSA. You have no love lost for them, but I'd like them to make sure that we have TSA agents and things flow smoothly when I take my next trip at the end of April, please. I've already seen, you see some slight adjustments. I mean, it's like, I don't really want to have to deal with the fact that I've got to wait in longer lines. That is not.
That shouldn't be a public agency anyway. The airport should hire a private security firm to do that.
Yeah, there's a better solution than that. Okay.
And we also have the machines they put you in where you go like this and the thing whirls around. You don't need all those people. That thing sees what needs to be seen.
Yeah.
Right. They have 10 people standing there. You need one person standing there.
That's what the thing is that, so we've got global entry, so we can, when we fly overseas too, which comes with TSA pre-check, and I've had pre-check for years. So pre-check, you just go through the magnetometer, and you rarely ever do this, the machine, and it's like, so we have been vetted in some way so that we're not a threat, but you just have to trust that that's what it is.
Yeah.
I even signed up for a 3-month trial of Clear Plus, but we went to the airport the other day and we're like, oh, Clear Plus lanes are all shut down because they're doing something different. And I don't know if that had anything to do with all this TSA, DHL mess. I don't know. It's just it's annoying. All right. Anyway, CNN poll, and you, in a sense, you kind of even brought that up. Harry Anton said on the air. So the Democrats are at a net 55% down, negative favorability, lowest ever. He said he even actually said they were lower than the Dead Sea.
Yeah. That's the thing is like the narrative here. Well, they're going to retake the House, of course, and probably the Senate. It's like, I don't see any proof of that. I see less evidence for that with every passing day. I think that they're going to maintain control of both. I think Republicans are going to win.
I mean, here's the thing: we can try to figure this out, try to read tea leaves through all these special elections and whatnot, and how all these other things are going on surface. But in the end, we really don't know what's going to happen until voting occurs and we get the results.
That's right. You can see something from the primary results. We're like, well, I'll give you one good primary. So, California, they have the jungle primaries. They copied Louisiana's election laws, which is a choice. And so so everybody runs of both parties, right, in the primary, and the top two vote getters go to the runoff. If no one gets 50%, the top two go to the runoff. The two leaders now are both Republicans. The top two is like one of them has 19, one of them has 17. It's Yates. The guy is a TV guy. Mm-hmm. Isn't that his name? He was on, starts with a Y something.
So what is this? Is this for what?
For governor of California.
Oh, governor of California.
Yeah. What is the guy? He's a Fox. He was a Fox News guy.
Oh, Steve Hilton?
Hilton, that's his name.
The guy with the British accent.
The other guy's like a sheriff.
Okay.
The opponent is a sheriff, and they're like at 19 and 17, and none of the Democrats are above 13. And they're like, it's like Swalwell and Katie Porter. So they're not enormously popular people anyway.
Yeah. So you're okay.
So the point being,
this is
everything's tilted toward Democrats and everyone hates Trump. Enjoy that narrative, but it doesn't really seem to be tied to the facts.
Yeah. Well, that is something else. I mean, it's just like, I don't know. Look, maybe Louisiana likes
that up.
Maybe Louisiana likes the jungle primary, but I've never really liked it, and I just. California, the Republicans were doing okay. They were doing okay under under their old system, which is whatever almost every other state has. And then Arnold Schwarzenegger came in there and, got this jungle primary thing through. And it's like, at that point, the party went right to pieces. It was totally, they had a very hard time of getting, winning, getting into a runoff.
Well, the reason they did it is like the thing they were copying is like in Louisiana, we would have, like when I was a kid, when I first started voting, we would get these elections where for governor, there would be 10 Democrat candidates and one Republican. So if you do jungle primary, the Republican is almost assured of being one of the two, right? Because all Republicans vote for him and the Democrat vote. And Democrats at that time ranged from hardcore leftists in New Orleans to basically Republican lights in northern Louisiana. So, they had that. That's why they did it. Is they got Dave Treen on the ballot every time, and they had a shot. So, but California, people are so fed up with the Democrats, and you have two weak candidates. Katie Porter, all those films of her saying, I'm not going to be asked that question, and she's kind of nasty, and I think even the Democrats have to acknowledge the sleaze that on Swalwell. So, they just didn't end up with any good candidates.
Yeah, and Kamala decided not to run. Like, okay, wow.
Yeah, well, she's not a good candidate either. I mean,
that's right. That's exactly
$1.3 billion and went downhill the whole time.
Yeah. All right, last couple things real quick. World Baseball Classic has finished. Venezuela beat the U.S. Probably another heartbreaking loss for the USA. Good for Venezuela. I mean, it's good for baseball.
Yeah, good for Venezuela. I was going to say the big story there is like, so I read somewhere the other night, like baseball has passed basketball and is now the number 2 sport, right? Their stars are more accessible and knowable and likable. the global reach is obviously growing. I mean, there were teams from all over the world. They don't necessarily have huge baseball communities in Italy and so forth, but they are fielding teams and they're getting major leaguers and so forth. And so it looks like real baseball. And, it was a good thing for, the games were compelling. The one last night, the U.S. semifinal game was riveting. The other semifinal game was riveting. So, they had great games to watch. It was like a little mini World Series in March. And, I think it got terrific reviews. And I think basketball is struggling. I think pro basketball is, the stars are aging. There's not really, there are a lot of great players, but there's not really there's no Jordan in the league right now. You have LeBron, but he's 40, and he's still a good player. I'm not taking it away, but like they don't have that thing to market, and they sort of got it on the wrong side of history on China and some other stuff that you can see them rethinking, but the rethink has not materialized into success yet.
Yeah, well, they allow themselves. The commissioner allowed the league to get a little political with a lot of stuff over the years.
That's right,
and that backfires on you.
Yeah, the NFL found that out. It's like the best thing to do is like you own the microphone. Tell people they want to talk about all that stuff. You do that when you're not in my uniform on my field, because fans do not go to games of either political party to see that. Like you always like, if it's my side, okay, good, he's smart, But we don't. That's not what we're there for. We're there to not think about that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, and even this thing about the Hawks promoting that Magic City night kind of thing against Orlando Magic. I mean, they had
Magic City. I didn't understand that.
It's a strip club.
Oh, okay, all right.
And Orlando Magic. And so in essence, they were promoting a strip club, and they actually had merch drops on this stuff that people love. And they now pulled out of that because people said, people like, why? I think one of the players was like, what are we doing here? And it's like, it's like, it's like, oh, it's like, this is not good. This is a stupid decision making on their part.
That's what that reminds me. Larry Flint built a hustler club in downtown Shreveport, still there. And at one point, the Independence Bowl is always losing sponsors, and they're always trying to find somebody to sponsor the thing and all that. And they were getting really desperate. And he's like, I'll do it. We could be the Hustler Independence Bowl. And they're like, thanks, but nah.
They finally drew a line. Send me the address. I want to check this place out.
That's right.
All right. And then finally, just for the heck of it, March Madness is right upon us. As you mentioned at the beginning, brackets are going to be due what time tomorrow?
12:10, like 24 hours from now.
So whether or not you're doing it on ESPN, CBS, whatever, multiple places you can put in your brackets. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I'll get around to it. I probably will get mine in just for the heck of it. I don't have a dog in this race, but it's the teams are much better this year than they were last year, I think, in terms of top teams. I mean, I think we're going to have some really, really good games as we reach the final couple of rounds too.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's as balanced and wide open as I remember it being in a long time.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We tried to throw in as much as we could since we missed a couple of weeks. Hope everything is good. As always, stay safe and stay well. Remember, we live in the greatest country in the world. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. And as always, God bless America. And we will see you again next week with more news and views.